Hi everyone, it's Ian here from IBI Performance Coaching, and I'm going to talk today about how to develop a lagging muscle group through home workouts. So enjoy, and I hope you find this video very useful. All right, so we're talking today about how to bring up a lagging muscle group. You may be in the camp where you're not even sure you have a lagging muscle group. So some ways to know are obviously if the muscle is underdeveloped compared to other muscles that you have. Maybe you've worked exercises for it before and it just hasn't responded that well. And it's important to recognize things like lagging muscle groups, not just for aesthetic reasons, but also because you do want to have a balance of strength, just for overall health and performance, everyday duties, not even athletic, facilities that you might be engaged in. So, a great way to tell whether or not a muscle is not really responding or not a high responder, a low responder, let's say, is can you connect to that muscle? Can you flex that muscle when it's not dealing with an exteriorly imposed force of any kind? So for the chest, can you flex your pecs like Chun-Li from Bloodsport used to do, where he'd just bounce his chest? Can you do that? Both of them, one of them at a time. If you can, chances are that you probably don't have a lot of trouble developing your chest. Whereas if you're like, wow, it feels like there's a black hole there. I try to connect to my chest, I try to flex it, and just nothing happens. That's a sign that your mind-muscle connection is lacking, that your muscular proficiency with regard to that muscle is not highly developed, and that's probably a main factor in why you're struggling to develop it, and probably not the only factor. This might be both a cause and a symptom of a muscle being a poor responder, but it also provides us with a lever that we can work on, and that's what we'll be talking about when I start demonstrating the exercises. Before we get there, though, we have to talk about the route that people typically take when they're trying to bring up a lagging muscle group, and that is what they'll do is they'll just throw more volume at that muscle. They'll say, I'm going to add another exercise of 2 or 3 sets or whatever it is. I'm going to add this many sets per week or that kind of thing. Or I'm going to, start doing push-ups every day at home, this kind of thing. And while that well-intentioned, that overlooks the fact that our bodies are not mechanical systems. When you're dealing with a mechanical system, you can often accurately predict outputs based upon inputs. And so if you increase the amount of inputs, you will increase the amount of outputs. But our bodies aren't mechanical systems. They're biological systems, they're living systems, they're adaptive. And as such, they have an adaptive capacity. So if you throw too many inputs at your body at one time, instead of getting more outputs, as in you do more volume, you get more muscle growth, what you'll often get is the system breaks down in some way or gets overloaded in some way, right? So overtraining, this kind of thing. Probably more common than overtraining, though, would be you may see some short-term gains, as in like you hit the nitro boost on the car and the car sped up a bit for a week or two, in the case of the muscle growth. But nitro boosting your car, nitro boosting your body in that way is not a sustainable long-term solution. And over time, it's going to lead down to the engine in the car, your joints, that is, your muscles, getting more wear and tear than you want for the results that you are producing. And you're going to destroy the sustainability of this approach. And over the long term, you'll get worse results because you'll spend a lot of time injured and unable to really train with any meaningful intensity. I promise you that this is the case. I've seen it and I've experienced it too many times to say otherwise. So the goal here is to operate below your threshold for adaptive stress, as in the threshold of, like, if you pass this threshold, your body can no longer adapt. We want to stay below that, but we want to stay above the threshold of stress that causes adaptation. Okay, and so the idea is every dose of stress requires a dose of recovery. you give your body too much stress, it requires too much recovery, or maybe you don't allow it to recover, and in the end, you cause a breakdown. So we got to keep all of this in mind. So what is the solution to this? It is reducing to add volume. So yes, we're going to add volume to the muscle that's lagging, but in order to add volume to it, we're going to reduce volume somewhere else. So two ways to think about this. One would be think about which muscles are high responders. So maybe your chest doesn't develop well, but your triceps do. Well, you don't need to be doing tricep press downs then if you're going to be adding more push-ups. Push-ups already work the triceps, so they're already getting stimulus and they respond well anyway. It's not like they're going to shrink from you doing push-ups. Okay, if it's something like your legs, right? Maybe your legs respond better than your shoulders do. Okay, so strip it down to the bare essentials on legs. Maybe that's, one super hard all-out set a week for legs, and then you're hitting your shoulders 3 times a week because they just never seem to get sore. They never seem to really show any wear and tear from the workouts that you do, and so you can probably hit them with more regularity. Another one would be if you are engaged in a sport that works a particular muscle group to some high degree, something like if you're a cyclist or you're a runner, you're probably getting a lot of stimulus to your legs. So it might make sense to reduce the stimulus that you're doing in the gym, that you're providing in the gym, and borrow from that to give more to your chest. Okay, so having laid all that out here, let me demonstrate an exercise, how to perform an exercise or a couple exercises that you can use to target a muscle group. I'm going to be talking about the chest in this demonstration, but you can take the same principle and apply it to any muscle group that you believe is lagging.
Let's talk about how to develop a lagging muscle group through home workouts. I'm going to be using the Synergy Set modality here because that is my preferred approach to exercising at home, and I think it really applies well to the challenge that we're talking about here today. All right, so we're going to be using the chest as an example, as I said. And so 2 exercises that come to mind that are easy to do at home are push-ups and dips. Okay, obviously both of these are compound exercises. As in, with a push-up, you are also hitting your anterior delt and you're hitting your triceps. Now, for those of you who struggle to develop your chest, probably what's happening when you do a push-up is that your anterior delt and your tricep are sort of taking over. They're doing the majority of the hard work there. And so your chest isn't really getting the stimulation that it needs in order to grow. So here is my recommendation for how to fix this. If you were doing a Synergy Set approach, okay, you would start with an overcoming isometric that, in a typical Synergy Set, that emulates the exercise that you're doing as closely as possible. So if I were about to do a push-up here, I would get a towel. Right now I have my ISOFIT World Trainer, which is a great piece of kit, but you don't need anything fancy like this. A bath towel will totally work. But I'm trying to emulate a push-up, which is pushing like this, right? So pushing, pushing, pushing. Okay, very similar to push-up position, right? Doing an overcoming isometric. The problem there is that I'm using all of those muscles that I just listed. I'm not just using my chest, I'm using my anterior delts, I'm using my triceps as well. So if they tend to take over, they're going to take over just as much. So instead of emulating the exercise I'm going to do, I'm going to isolate the muscle that I want to train predominantly during the push-up. So for this, all I'm going to need is a pillow. Okay, so I'm going to grab a pillow like this. I'll fold this one over to give it a little more thickness. And then I'm going to do a chest squeeze, so squeezing the pillow here. Now, compared with the emulated push-up with the World Trainer there, I can absolutely testify that I'm not getting as much interference from the deltoids, I'm not getting as much interference from the triceps. My biceps are a bit active, but really only to stabilize my arms as I squeeze here. I can absolutely feel this in my chest 100 times more than I could with that World Trainer. Okay, so if you struggle to connect with your chest, do something like this first to wake that chest up and try to build that connection. Now, you may not get it the first time, but the more you do this kind of thing, the more you're going to develop the connection to your pecs. So you're gonna do that for about, who knows, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. You could go for a little bit longer if you really wanna work on the mind-muscle connection, the muscular proficiency as it relates to your chest. And then you're gonna go straight into doing your push-up, straight into it, okay? I'm talking a bunch here, but typically you would just jump right into doing the push-up, okay? And you're going down here. And you should, if you're doing this right, be able to feel your chest more than if you hadn't done that isometric to lead off with. Okay, then in standard synergy set protocol, you'll go to dynamic failure here, to momentary muscular failure. So you're pushing down, you get to here, you get stuck, momentary muscular failure. Okay, you may get back to the top and want to do a couple more reps. I'll leave that up to you. You could also throw in a drop set, a mechanical drop set, where you go to your knees and do some more knee push-ups there if you don't feel like you got enough reps. Okay, and then you're gonna reset at the top and you're gonna lower yourself down slowly, 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 to get a really prolonged eccentric or yielding isometric, however you wanna look at it. Okay, so the change that we're making there is, instead of emulating the push-up, we're doing a chest squeeze, which isolates the chest much more effectively. You could do the same thing with the dips. So here I'm going to use 2 chairs, right? Once again, I would start with the chest squeeze, because if I don't do the chest squeeze first, I'm going to get a lot of anterior delt and a lot of tricep. And yes, those are going to work even with the chest squeeze, but by targeting the chest first, I'm sort of waking it up, I'm building the connection to it, I'm telling it we're about to do something that's going to require force. And so you should get more activation when you do your dips. When you're doing your dips for chest activation, make sure that you're leaning forward. Your hips have to be behind your shoulders, hips behind your shoulders. And you're coming like this. Okay, now you'll notice I keep my feet on the ground. The height of the chairs does not permit me to raise my feet off the ground, but even if it did, keeping your feet on the ground allows you to add stability to the exercise, and it allows you to assist yourself with just the right amount of supplementary, muscular effort coming from your legs, so that you can prolong the set and really maximize that time near failure. Okay, and then similarly with this one, you'll reach momentary muscular failure, you'll reset at the top, and you're coming down nice and slow. Even just holding for as long as you can in this position. Down, 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 down. And the dip has the added benefit at the bottom of allowing you to go down to here and add in a tension stretch where you're trying, it's like doing an overcoming isometric, you're trying to push yourself up, but you just can't. And so you're keeping the pectoral muscles in that stretched position under tension when they're already full of blood, which will have an increased sort of hypertrophic stimulus for them. All right. If you don't have 2 chairs that you trust, you can always do dips on a table. Table dips are absolutely an option. And yeah, I've used those plenty of times to good effect. Okay. Now, one last tip I would say is, if you might have noticed I did my push-ups on my knuckles. Okay. If you can do that, I would recommend doing it that way. I would also, if you can't, do them on your knuckles, get push-up handles. They're not expensive. Adding that range of motion at the bottom will get more of a stretch on the chest, will help to target the chest that much more. And it allows you to do that stretch position at the bottom that I showed with the dips, similarly in your push-ups. Also, I want to say, please, please, please don't feel like you can't do knee push-ups because, it's not, manly enough or whatever. Your proper technique is going to get you better results, and better results are what I assume you are after. Okay, so I will often just start with knee push-ups, because done with the overcoming isometric first into proper form, slow and controlled movement, knee push-ups, you'll wear out very quickly. I promise. I do not have a weak push-up, and yet doing them, okay, with your butt down, okay, and squeezed, everything is squeezed there, so it's a completely straight line, and then doing at this rate, this speed, just after having done an overcoming isometric, never locking out at the top. You will exhaust the muscles very quickly by doing them that way. So, and the angle is a bit more like a dip as well. It's almost like a hybrid between a dip and a push-up. Okay, and dips are fantastic for the chest. Okay, so there you have some ideas about how to target a lagging muscle group with with an exercise at home.
All right, thanks so much for watching. So if you're interested in digging deeper into the synergy sets, I have a ton of free content on this channel. There's also a Facebook group you can check out below, and there's a bunch of programs. We have over 100 5-star reviews at this point for the synergy set workout programs, all of which can be done at home with minimal equipment. So if you're interested in those, please check them out below. I appreciate everybody who does anything that supports the channel. You know what those actions are. I don't need to spit them out like every other YouTuber does. So I appreciate all of you, even if you don't support the channel. Just I appreciate you watching and taking the time to be here with me today. All right, have a good one and go earn it.